I hope everyone's surviving after that lunch. I feel like lunch is probably settling in to most of you guys. So bear with me here. I promise I'll move as quickly as I can. And clearly the folks from CIFE, first of all, thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it. Based in Boston, it's always nice to get out here, even though I think it's colder today here than it is in Boston. So I picked the wrong week. But I think, I'll be quick today, but this is a really nice segue. We've heard a lot about what other folks are doing in innovation and construction, and hopefully, a little bit about what we're doing will be interesting for the broader group. And also, there will be a little bit of a call to action here because we are open-armed when it comes to innovation and construction. So if folks are interested in what we're doing, please don't hesitate to reach out. We like to have more people involved with this. Real quick, by way of background, I've been at Suffolk for just about 8 years, 9 including my internship. Started as a superintendent, worked as a project manager, worked in commercial estimating, and then had the pleasure of working as chief of staff for our CEO and founder. Suffolk is owned by one individual. He's a single proprietor of Suffolk Construction. So we do, Suffolk Construction does about $5.5 billion worth of work. We are a commercial GC. We employ about 1,700 people, headquartered in Boston, but we span across and have 9 major offices in all the major metropolitan areas. Different, though, from Suffolk, and this is what I'm going to talk about today, I think Suffolk Technologies, which is the group that I work for, we spun out in 2019, and we wanted to stand up our own institutional-grade venture fund that has the capabilities to invest into startups, but does not have the CVC aura, maybe potentially hanging over its head. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Suffolk Technologies and what we do. I'll talk about Boost primarily, which is our flagship program. And then there's also a really interesting twine that I think you guys will pick up on through the presentation. But we have started to see the industry push a lot toward vertical consolidation. What that means, that could take on a lot of different shapes and sizes depending on what you're trying to accomplish and where you sit in the value chain. For us, that meant, and apologies, I'm happy that Rob Atani is no longer here, but I think as a general contractor, it meant we felt like we were doing a lot of the design work and the construction jobs, but not getting paid for it. And so we started Suffolk Design, which is a design assist group. We are not a design build shop, but we have the capabilities. We have 30 in-house architects and engineers that we work with. And I'll tie this all together in a second when you recognize that the way we want to position ourselves as Suffolk Technologies and the Boost program is we want to equip startups who we deem are best positioned to disrupt the industry. We want to equip them with all of the knowledge and institutional knowledge that they need around the table to help them be successful. Who here has seen Shark Tank? Anybody? Yeah, most people. We're doing something similar. We don't look quite as good as the rest of the group, but it's a little bit of a motley crew here now. But we do something very similar. We run an accelerator program. It runs every year in the fall. It's an annual program that we put on, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it, how we do it, why we do it, where it started. And then, importantly, where we see this thing going in the future and ideally how you guys can be involved. Maybe take a step back. So I think for us, the impetus behind this program, it started in 2020, was quite frankly that we were seeing a lot of really smart, technologically savvy, entrepreneurial folks coming out of school or getting their MBA and reading a McKinsey report and deciding that they were going to change the world and starting with construction, design, architecture, and engineering. Fantastic idea, and we were rooting for them on the sidelines. What we started to realize quickly was that they had the entrepreneurial savviness. They were lacking a little bit of the operational experience and expertise. So we figured, let's start a program whereby we source startups. They apply to our Boost program. We partner them up with the team at Suffolk Construction, Suffolk Design, and our external partners. And we work together for a period of 6 weeks, hyper-focused, very intensive. Beauty of the program being that after just a 6-week period of time, those startups leave our ecosystem, leave the Boost program. They never really leave the ecosystem, but they feel like they got a great accomplishment in just a short period of time. We started this in 2020, right during COVID. We had 2 partners. Now we're up to 20, so those are the folks on the right side of the screen. They are not accidental. We're trying to cover as many stakeholders that sit along the value chain in construction and design as possible. So we have large insurance carriers. We have subcontractors. We have surveying companies. We have Suffolk Design. We're going to hopefully onboard a few more design partners this year. We have material suppliers. We also have other general contractors. That's an important point and one that I have been fighting for a few years. And so if it goes south on me, I'm going to take the fall for it. But the thought behind it was we actually didn't want startups just selling or talking to one general contractor, in particular one that's in the ENR top 25. I don't think that we are not structured as the norm of a general contractor in the U.S. If there's 220,000 general contractors in the U.S., 97% of them have less than 20 employees, right? So they're not dealing with the 1,700 employee gorilla like Suffolk. So really important for us to branch out, find other general contractors that work in different geographies, different asset classes, and make sure we're capturing and understanding what their problems are and what they're facing in the field, and then trying to apply the technologies to it. So to date, we've taken 18 companies through Boost. The first year we took 5. The second year we took 6. Last year we took 7, and you can see those on the bottom right, and we'll talk about the themes in a second. So by the numbers, first year, our pilot program, we launched, opened up applications. We received 84 applications, had 2 partners. Last year, 2 years ago, we went back out to the market. We received 105 applications. We had 6 program partners. Last year, we went out with 13 program partners. We got 185 applications. And applications are open now, and we're on track to have a great number of them again this year. But it's really not about the quantity; it's about the quality. And I can tell you guys, there's some really interesting and smart folks that are trying to change the way that we've been building and designing buildings. And it's really exciting and very encouraging for us to see. So we're looking forward to this. I think just a couple things to note. One is these folks that come through the program, they are partnered up with a team of usually 3 to 5 folks. 1 or 2 of them are from Suffolk. Then the remainder of their team is comprised of our partners. And so we try to give them different points of view, different expertise, different knowledge sets around the table. And we are very clear up front that when you apply to the program, you must submit the challenge that you're trying to solve over the 6 weeks of time. The project manager and superintendent definitely comes out in me. Every Friday, we have a report that you have to submit back to our team. You're either on track or you're late in your goals. And if you're late, you owe us a recovery plan, very similar to how we run our schedules on our projects, which I think resonates very well with these startups. Here's what the teams looked like from last year, right? So you can see there's quite a few folks that are up here. I think, one piece of learning, if anyone's thinking about doing something like this, being hyper-defined in the period of time that you're asking for operational folks to be engaged is really important. When these engagements with startups live in perpetuity, they tail off very quickly. So I think we've been able to have some good traction with our supers and our PMs by saying, hey, it's just 6 weeks. We need 2 hours of your time per week. It's a defined period, and everybody gets very excited about it. The selection process. So there are a couple cuts, and this happens during the summertime, so applications are open for the next 3 weeks. But I think really important to point out here, as we whittle the field down, there's 2 things I want to point out. One is when we get to the top 25 applications, we actually crowdsource the scoring. So the 20 partners that you saw that were on the screen earlier, we've built out our own internal application. They all log on. They can see the pitch deck. You can see their application. And all of our partners actually help us score the companies. So when you think about that from a venture capital standpoint or from our fund standpoint, yes, we're crowdsourcing. Yes, we're understanding what the Procores and the Autodesks of the world are looking at and are interested in. We're also getting the points of view from insurance carriers. We're getting points of view from other general contractors. So it's a really interesting time when we go from the top 25 down to the top 10 companies. And that usually takes us a full day. And we do that in person with our partners. It's really, really quite fulfilling. I also think it's important to note, and this is a little bit different than maybe some other kind of corporate innovation groups, we are not launching the program every year vying for or searching for particular pain points we're trying to solve. So we don't go out at the start of the year saying we're trying to solve productivity tracking, access control, and UAV captures on our job sites. We actually let the startup community kind of talk to us, and we use that as our barometer of where we should be focusing our efforts. I think it's pretty inherent, but when you recognize that the average GC spends less than 1% of their revenue on R&D, it becomes very apparent that it's not going to be us that are the big innovators in the room. And so we wanted to design a program that allows us to see what the broader ecosystem is doing and then hook on to a couple of them and see how we can be helpful. So here's what it looked like. This is from last year, and there's a lot to digest here. I think probably, most importantly is just if we walk through some of the themes here and kind of how different and how broad this can be. We're receiving applications anywhere from design to prop tech to modular to scheduling to just straight up digitization and collaboration, which is still very much needed in our industry. I think everybody will agree with that. Two important things to point out. One is we saw a nice increase in female founders, which is always a good thing and something we're looking for. And number two is that roughly 40% of the companies that applied to Boost last year had some aspect of sustainability built into their business model, which for us was a clear barometer and an indication of where the industry is headed and where startups are starting to focus more of their time and energy. This year, it looks like maybe 50% of them are touting some sort of generative AI. I say that very gently because when you pull the curtain you can pull the curtain back and you realize it's not actually AI. There's a team that's offshore of 40 engineers that are working on this. It's maybe not as flashy, but the idea and the concept is there. And here's what it looks like worldwide, right? So last year we had over 32 countries that submitted applications. So we're starting to broaden our horizons out a little bit. Adding value back to these startup companies that are not based in the U.S. is something that's very fulfilling to us. And quite frankly, I think 3 years ago, we didn't think we had the capability to do it. But through the partnerships that we've struck up over the past couple of years, we feel pretty good about what we've been able to do. And I'm going to talk about that right now and a couple examples. So I'm just going to highlight 3 examples of companies that have come through the Boost program over the past years. So Mundt and Moxion and Rugged were all part of our Boost 2 program. Moxion's based here in the Bay Area. I'll talk a little bit about them. Mundt came over from Tel Aviv, and Rugged Robotics is based in Houston. So I'm going to kind of lay out, who they are, what they were trying to accomplish, how we helped them, and then obviously we can get to questions and answers later. So Moxion's on the hunt to replace all diesel generators on our job sites with electric-powered generators. It is a tall task, and I can say now publicly that they have their first purchase order. It's for over 1,500 units from Sunbelt Rentals. They're creating 3 of these generators right now per day in their factory in Richmond, California. They're building a second factory right next door to it, and we're very excited about it. So. We all know the problem with diesel generators, but I think really important, for us to lay out what exactly we did with them in Boost, right? So this is what they were hoping for, the perfect load flexibility, silent generators, no emissions. It's better for you. It's better for the neighborhood. You can work longer hours. You can start a little bit earlier. You don't have to worry about the diesel trucks coming on and off your site. And here was the problem that we faced. So when Moxion came to the program, they were still in the very early stages of creating their first prototype. And the first couple weeks of the program, they were spending with our project teams on sites, asking about, which pieces of equipment would be best to have all-electric generators power them. Fortunately and unfortunately for Moxion, the 2 pieces of equipment that we thought would be the best use case for this was a tower crane and a hoist. And Moxion had no idea at the time how much power was required to run one of those for a week. And so this is the beauty of working with a large general contractor. We were building a computer science building on MIT's campus. And we worked with their facilities team. We actually had to cut power to the MIT campus for about 25 minutes. We did this at midnight. And we hooked up two power output recording devices. So it sat in between the tower crane and the generator, and it also sat in between the hoist and the generator. What we did for the next 4 weeks is that we were actually recording how much power was required to run these 2 large pieces of equipment, and feeding all that information back to Moxion Power, which then they were using to spec their first product. As amazing as this all sounds, the takeaway was that there's no way that their all-electric generators would be able to power a tower crane or a hoist. But for them, that was really invaluable information, and they decided to downsize for their first products that they began rolling off the line. So yes, we can't sit here and say, we helped them spec their product to what we know it as today, but we definitely pointed their early product development in the right direction. Second is Mundt. Mundt came over from Tel Aviv. This is an inline leak detection and mitigation system. So it sits in line with your plumbing stacks. It can fit on an 8-inch pipe all the way down to a 1/4-inch diameter pipe. And what's unique about it is it not only tells you, it senses water anomalies in your flow for use of your building. So what exactly this looks like, you might have 10 of them, you might have 30 of them installed in your plumbing stack in your building. It takes 30 days to learn how you typically use water in your building, and if it senses and detects an anomaly in that, it will either alert you, or you can customize it to have it shut down if it happens at certain hours. So anyone here that's in construction, leaks can be devastating to a schedule. They cost a lot of money. They tend to happen on the long weekends. 4th of July is a good one. Labor Day is a great one. And a fitting lets go, or a sprinkler head pops and it's 2 a.m. and no one's awake or in any, I should say, is in good enough shape to go to the job site and take a look at what's going on. So for us, we utilize these systems. And when they came to us from Israel, the dynamics of owner developers and general contractors is very different than it was in the U.S. So they applied to Boost and said, we want to use you guys as our springboard into the U.S. market, understand all the different dynamics between builders, developers, owner-operators, which there's not as many as there are here as there are in Europe. And so we had to help them develop what it would look like to sell into a GC and then allow the client to take that on and take over the software subscription that's required to run these things over time. This is what it looks like right now. So you can see it's not very sexy, but the toilet flush signature is up there on the top right. So you'll see when you flush the toilet, the water signature pops up. If you flush the toilet and you wash your hands, that's the second one. This is the variability of a cooling tower. And so I think people are starting to iterate on what was typically just used for water conservation and then also leak detection and mitigation. And these systems are now able to detect temperature as well as flow. So they're being put before and after things like cooling towers, heat pumps. And so you can detect, is this thing cooling the water as much as it's supposed to? Does it need maintenance? Is there as much flow coming out as there should be? Does it need maintenance? And the beauty of it is it's got the ability to shut off autonomously, right? And so for us, if it senses an anomaly on one of our job sites, you can have it automatically shut off the flow of water, which is hugely impactful for our construction teams. So Alon and the team came through the Boost program in 2021. For the companies that come through the Boost program, we do write a safe note in. It's on our website. It's not a large chunk of change. We write a $100,000 safe note. It's mostly just to align interests. So we are investors in every company that comes through the Boost program. And to start, we installed the Mundt system on 2 of our job sites. Fast forward to today, they're on 6 of our job sites. They have another 8 or so in the hopper that will go very shortly. And then most importantly, we've been able to help broker relationships with 3 of the major builders risk carriers in the United States, a lot of whom we use. And actually, they're the folks that are really benefiting from this because builders risk policies are no fault. So the general contractor is not necessarily on the hook for it unless you want to get into the reputational costs and schedule delays. So they've been an awesome kind of flagship company that came to us from overseas, and we were able to apply our local community and our understanding of the U.S. market and help them adapt their business model to flourish within this. The last one I want to talk about is rugged robotics. My guess is most folks here have seen this. If you haven't seen rugged robotics, you've probably seen Dusty. Seeing as we're in the Bay Area, I wouldn't be surprised. But rugged came through our Boost 2 program, and here's what it looks like, right? It's always good to see a video of these things coming alive. This is on a job site in, let's see. I promise it works right away on the job site. Thank you. Little assist. That's AI right there. And so this guy was rolling around one of our job sites on 5 Times Square in New York City. No surprise to anybody here, but the as-builts from the project were from the 1980s, and they were extremely inaccurate. And the design team couldn't make heads or tails of where the edge of slab was, and so we actually employed the rugged robotics guys to come out and lay out the whole floor plate for us. And right now we're doing just architectural layout for us on the job site, but they're able to also lay out MEP as well. So they do things like door swings. They can tell you type of drywall, if it's double-sided, if it's a wet wall. You can really feed as much information as you want into these things. This is with their Beta 4. They just released their Mark 1. But when we first became introduced to them when they came through the Boost program, we were paying attention to a couple metrics that we do for every company that we run a pilot with. The first for rugged robotics, of course, was the accuracy variance. The second was the cost, and the third was the productivity rates. So you'll see when they came through the program in 2021, we were seeing variances, quarter inch, half inch, sometimes up to an inch, which was enough to make a superintendent say no thanks. Cost, it was more expensive than traditional cost, which was okay if you were doing multi-trade layout. If you were just doing drywall, it would be an uphill battle, but if you were laying out drywall and MEP, it began to make a little bit more sense. And then productivity, honestly, it was actually slower than the guys in the field with chalk lines. And fast forward a couple years, and the difference is pretty magical. And again, it's not us that are changing the robot or doing the programming or the engineering behind the system, but it is us giving them access to our job sites, giving them live feedback from our superintendents, connecting them with our drywallers. And for Derek and the rugged robotics team, the first job site they came to, we had shower depressions, and the robot fell immediately into one of them, and it broke one of the gimbals on top of it. So we were like, okay. So he's like, all right, we got to learn how to quickly geofence around those areas. They did that. The second time they came out to Terminal E Airport in Boston, 800 square foot terrazzo floors, all with radial curves, and they're like, we can't do radial curves. He spent about a week and a half with his engineering team. They learned how to do that. They came back out and performed the work for us. You guys saw it rolling around at 5 Times Square. Now, really exciting for us. They're on a job site in Dallas. It's a government project. And they are laying out not only the drywall, but also the MEP trades work. And the secret sauce behind this one is that the trades are actually paying for this. And so the trades gave us back a credit. Yes, the trades gave us back a credit. That's really difficult to do in order to have rugged robotics on the job site doing the work for them. And so I think what we're starting to see is there's this kind of inherent pull for companies that are out there looking to be very innovative, but oftentimes they might have a few of these shower depression type instances that occur. The beauty of Boost and what we try to do is we want to be that protective layer around them. It's like wrapping them with bubble wrap for the first couple of years. You can fall over if you need to. You might have a false start, but we're not going to stop. We're willing to put in the time and energy to help these guys get to where they need to be to make a difference in the industry. So appreciate you guys listening to me, and I'm looking forward to any questions.